Hello, ladies. Good to see you. Today we're going to be reviewing probably notes from 123 and 124, right? If we still have questions from that. And Nienke, you sent me some notes that we didn't get to review from the last cycle meeting too. We also have those.
Yes, I thought I sent that. And I was also
Yeah.
confused with time in 1.5 hours because I thought, oh, then I'm only have a half an hour in the car, but now I was the full 2 hours in the car. So sorry for that, because
Oh, no, that's okay.
I really loved that one. It was great that you also did a translation of that. It was really, I
It
listened
was
to
a
it
lot.
so many times that I was so living with that one. It was really,
Yeah.
really good.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
That was really creating that one for me was a different process.
yeah.
I don't know why, I just sometimes I'm just guided from like the material guides me sometimes in how I can relate to it. So something really funny happened to me with that one in the fifth stage where I didn't do the translation like I usually do it. I translated the text and I read out the text and all of that. And it was just different and it just came out that way. I didn't plan it. It just came
Yeah.
out like that. So for me, it was a whole different process as well to do. And it was just really different.
Yeah.
The receiving of all of that. And still, like, I feel like I need to go over it again.
I think in that one, there's so much information in
There's
that
so
one.
much.
So much. It was really like, but I felt from the inside, I was so happy with that one.
Yeah.
But not the first time. The first time was like,
Mhm. It was like,
I don't,
what?
I don't,
Yeah.
it was really difficult. But then yeah, as I continued, it got better and I get more enthusiastic about it. Yeah.
That's
And
good.
what
Yeah.
I had of the review meeting, again, making a review meeting because I have questions about the review meeting. So
Oh, yeah.
because it's 1 hour,
Mhm.
it's so much information.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a lot. And I think also the red programs, I think 123, there was a lot there too.
Oh my God.
124, I think was a little more mellow, right? I mean, there was still a lot there too, but still. So I think we're just waiting for
Yeah.
Gabi, but we should begin.
Yes.
Yes, we begin.
Okay. So we have Gabi's questions, Nienke's questions, and Marjolaine. So we have a lot of material. Let's get to that. We're gonna begin with one of Gabi's. Can you explain what is the link to the person who died and the date Ale found in the 9th of the 8th of year 941? So I think I this one very briefly, right? Because I was like, we'll just talk about it more in the meeting. So what happened was that Alejandra went with this person, her name is Miriam, to Corbera's event in Peru in 2012, right? And this person was with Ale throughout all the development when a lot of the people from the root group, from the people that began with Ale, weren't there anymore. And Alejandra always talks about how painful it was for her that these people from the beginning are not there anymore. Like, it's been really hard for Alejandra to process the fact that they're not there anymore. But Miriam she was like the only person there from the beginning, from the root group. And she continued with Ale up until 7011, right? So the thing was that, yes.
Maybe we are answering your first question.
Yeah, she can, I think she'll figure it out. So the thing was that this person, she wasn't gonna be able to enter. She wasn't able to enter the 7011 event, right? She didn't say why, she just wasn't able. Alejandra opened up another course group to share the 7011 material to a group of people that weren't able to make it to the first event. Miriam was gonna be in it. She died a week before, right? Alejandra was very, very deeply affected by this. She said it was very hard for her to process, and she needed an answer. She needed to figure out why that happened, like what it was, because Alejandra and her immense responsibility with the instruction and the resource. She said, I gave my all. I know I gave my all. Why it happened to her? Why? So she said she cornered herself into a sofa and she stared at the calculator until she had an answer. The answer was this, the complement. Now, the link is just like the detonating, which was medium. She detonated Alejandra to focus on this other solar day, which was, you know, the digits, the same digits of Alejandra's solar day, but flipped. That took her to that day, the 4th, the 9th of the 8th of 9 or 4
Sorry,
9.
the word detonate, what does it mean? She
Detonate like a trigger.
okay. Oh, so that is the link. That
It
was
was-
also
Yeah. It triggered Alejandra to ask the question.
yeah.
And this took her to this resource of that date, the 9 of the 8 of 941. And the reading of that date is the update of the octave. Sarabi. The update of the octave of the day. And she said she was very amazed by that because she's like, this is something that I've been doing since day one non-stop. I've been updating the octave of the day every day, every day, every day, right? So that is the relationship. It is a triggering, something that triggered Alejandra, something that affected her deeply, which is also why she said that this was the reason why she didn't share it immediately. She shared it in the 7011 group, but it was really, really a very vulnerable spot for her, which is why she didn't share it in the red program. And then she was like, I'll explain it later, I'll explain it later. And then she has so many things to do, and then she just forgot to do it. But on the first day of lab 20, where we have that metric that she explained, right? She was like, okay, this is the day to explain it. So that is the importance between that day and the solar day of that day and Alejandra's solar day, right? Which is something that Ale used to also explain, that Gaia has the control of Alejandra's receiver because of a frequential reason. For the frequency of Alejandra's solar native day, Gaia has the control of Alejandra's receiver. She said something like that.
Yeah. Can you repeat that? That Gaia has the control over Alejandra's receiver.
Or receptor.
Okay.
Because of the solar day, it's Gaia 39.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So that would be it. I was answering your first question, Gabby, before you came in. So it's recorded. So you can see the first part of it.
Thank you.
And David was also from the beginning there, eh? It was not only she, but I know David.
From the root group, I don't think David was in it.
No, was not there.
No?
And there's a lot of people from 2013 and such, but from the root group, no one's there anymore.
Denise, my sixth question is about this event. The main goal of this event was derivate your experiences to the double. That was, you know, Ale wants that every individual figure this out for him or herself. Can you add some more explanation about this sentence, or you want to explain it later?
Yes, we can clarify it, of course. The thing is that the event they went to, this was before LGC. This was in September of 2012. It was a couple of days, some days, like less than a month before the global derivation.
Yeah, the 16th of September 2012.
Exactly, 16th of September. This was Cusco, Peru event, and it was given by Enric Corbera. The content of this event and the instruction that Enric Corbera did to the public was derivate your experiences to the double. Prior to this, there was the meeting in Pekin, okay? In August. So the meeting in Pekin happened in August. Enric Corbera's event happened in September, and the global derivation happened in October, okay? So the instruction was derivate your experiences to your double. but Alejandra didn't derivate her experiences to the double. She derivated the double itself. Because the double had been used to manipulate. That molecular codification was used before to manipulate. So Alejandra didn't. There was another, her antenna picked up another signal. She didn't derivate her experiences because she had a connection with something else. So she derivated her double. She said, mandé a cagar al doble. Like she cursed her double. Like she was like, I don't care about my double. She bypassed the
Oh, yeah,
interface.
that was
the
in the beginning,
manipulation.
eh? Was always 7 and then down.
Exactly. So there was another type of connection there, right? That was the instruction in the event. But then Alejandra said, there was a receiver that took another route. She didn't follow the route that was being instructed by Corbera. That
Was
everybody
that an event on Garnier or was it
Corbera.
Enrique. He is a Spanish teacher, what I do, Gabi. He's very popular.
And when
So
she was
before that, we had Garnier, of course. Garnier and the unfoldment of time were triggers. The only thing that these people are Corbera, Hammer, and Garnier, triggers. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Triggers. Because
Enrique,
what Alejandra is doing is from another dimension. What these people are doing is anatomic, and their reading is anatomic, and it's in raw. So it's just a dot that triggers something in Alejandra's receiver that opens up the cataract to something completely independent and different from all of that.
Because of this event, Ale could go to the re. I could understand.
I don't know if it's because of these events, because the connection is in the subatomic. Sorry?
Because of her decision.
Because there was an instruction in her re-access. It's not that she went to the re. The re was always there. She became aware. There was that coming into an awareness that wasn't there before. But we know from Alejandra's explanation of her life, you know, before all of this, it's always been synchronized. So it's just a moment a moment of infliction, but everything in her life was synchronized and has been synchronized.
You know, Denise, can I add a little personal thing about it? You know, I heard about Enrique, of a client of mine. So I was watching him and I had so much allergy of this person. And I said, you know, for me, what he's saying, it's not resonating. It's, you know, I feel very ugly. And she was very enthusiastic. She said, oh no, blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, I cannot receive him. And now you're explaining, and now I understand why. But I have this with most of the people who are, you know, in the alternative spiritual world, very popular. I feel the same.
Yeah, and it makes sense because we are being formed by an instruction that it has to do with the science of another dimension, right? So imagine we are learning about we are in an advanced class, an advanced calculus class, right? We are in a class. Let's not say that we're experts. We're learning about it. We're in a class, but it's an advanced class. Why would you go and take a primary school calculus if you're already in an AP class? It doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? The only reason why you would do that is because you are in that AP class and you're not understanding anything. So you need to go back. That would be the only understandable reason for me to go back and listen to Garnier or Hammer or Corbera, because it wouldn't make, you know, because I'm not learning, I'm not understanding anything about the advanced class. Okay, that's fine. It's fine. We can go back, you know. But even though in this, in the instruction, in the resonance thing, it doesn't necessarily need to, you don't need to understand it. but it does need, because the resonance is what makes it that it makes sense. Because if it doesn't make sense, there is no resonance, and it's going to come off as a belief system, or as a religion or something like that. Because you don't have the resonance that makes it, that it makes sense, to make sense. That's why it's non-transferable. That's why we can't affect anybody with it, you know? Okay, let's move on because we have a
10
little,
years ago,
we have a
but
little.
I never heard about the logic at the time, but it was 10 years ago. And he's also doing a book, the miracles, the life of miracles, whatever. It's a big,
Corbera?
yeah. He's take everything, the book with the miracle of life or whatever. It's a
Cursus van Wonderen.
yeah, the curses of
Oh,
the course of miracles. Oh my
Yeah.
God. But anyway, it's a narrative.
Very symbolic.
Correct, Mary.
I'm sorry.
For me too.
Yeah. And I know this is like we talked about it in the cycle. It's a very solitary path. It's very solitary because hardly, like, you can hardly talk about it with hardly anybody. Yeah, and it's hard to, like, it's difficult. It's difficult to walk the walk. Yeah.
And I'm teaching, the things about Hamer, and then I always say, but this is in a row. Dus I say,
That's
dua,
good. Yeah, it's good to separate.
there is also another level. So I'm always teaching these two things together. Yeah.
Just to have like it is important that there's a separation, that there's an understanding that this is like it's a small box inside life, right? And but it doesn't have anything to do with this multidimensional science. It's like it's completely different. It's completely dissociated. So it is important to have that, right? All right, let's go to the next question. Recreation, Nienke. Recreation comes from an update as nacido. Can you explain this, please? Okay. So when we're talking about when there's a recreation, lab 20, right? Lab 20 is the 9th lab in relation to others. There's an update there. How do we get an update? There can only be an update, and the only one that can do an update is the nacido. Remember, we have the nativo and we have the nacido. The nativo is the native reaches, scopes, document that I have when I am born, right? And I have it, and some people live with that all of their lives and die with that. They don't have a nacido active, because the nacido is the one that is in contact with the entorno of the variables, and the one that is able to take those variables and amplify the native octave, right? So there can only be a recreation because there was an update. There's an update, there's a recreation. So I can only do this with my nacido aspect.
Nacido is the born one, eh?
The thing is that in English, nativo and nacido is very like native, and we could say the born one, but it doesn't translate very fairly. That's why I use the word in Spanish, so that we can just construct the concept with the word in Spanish, which is nacido. It is nativo and nacido. We can relate nativo to native, but just leave nacido as nacido. As the one that is capable of taking the variables of the entorno, so that it has the ability to recreate and add other qualities to that native without having to die, right? Because this is an aspect that is now a possibility that the entorno is providing for us, that maybe in the future we are not gonna need to die, because we are doing this, like whatever we do when we die, we're learning to do whilst being still alive through the nacido.
But I learned it because of the born one, because all the translation was always in that, eh?
Yeah, the born
In
one.
the beginning. And
It
I
is
always
translation.
had the translation. And then nativo, nacido, I think,
Yeah. I understand. I mean, it is the direct translation, but the thing is with thing with LGC, you know how there's a lot of things that can't be directly translated, which is why, like, I think I am here and David is here because if
Yeah.
not, we just use the automatic translations.
For me, it's much more. It's not understandable when I use the word the born one. Then it's not understandable. But with Nacido, it is understandable for me.
Because it's like more connected to like the root, the source, right? There are some things that we can work on with the English, but there's a limit. Like when I myself personally find that limit, like with entorno, I used to use setting, remember?
Yeah.
And I was like, no, it just doesn't click. It doesn't click.
Yeah, that's
Say
true.
entorno.
Yeah, that's true. I
Yeah.
had also problems with that, but sometimes it's when you do it in English, it feels like a click, like for the biology. Sometimes I feel that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Miriam, the other one in the HF11 group, translates English always to German. But I have learned to think in English because of this.
Yeah, because imagine now,
Yeah.
moving it from Spanish to English is a
Yeah.
huge
Yeah.
challenge. Now, moving it to German, I wouldn't, no. I would not. I wouldn't. Like only some part of it, like if I was very sure that I have a proper understanding of it, okay, I would make an attempt to move it to a third language. But very, please be very careful, very careful, because it's a lot of responsibility for yourself, for your biology, and for others that may be hearing it or receiving it too. So if you're doing that, just be very careful, because just moving it from the source in Spanish into English, oh my God, it's a lot. It's a lot. So if you guys can just train yourselves to just stick with it in the English, because it's more direct, because there's David and me there are conscious, like a consciousness that can see both sides, and just we're doing our best to make it as clear, like the transfer as clear as possible. There are consciousness there, but if there's not a consciousness there in the membrane, it can be dangerous for our biologies. And for
but it's interesting, eh? But do you know Spanish? She has learned Spanish.
Who?
Miriam. She speaks
no,
Spanish.
she doesn't know Spanish. She's learning.
She's
learning, but every
Just a
time
little bit.
more.
I know she
But
might
she does
grasp,
it,
but it's not the same though.
That's true, but I have the English version and she does the Spanish, but she does it from Spanish in German then. She has a problem with English, I guess.
If there's a
Yes,
problem
people
with
say that it's very difficult for her, and she said, "Yeah, for me
Yeah.
as a German, I have to translate it as well in German."
Yeah.
But there are more Dutchies in the group, and they have the same. But maybe we are more native English speakers.
English. That's true, but just
Very
it's
good,
not
like
German.
these, but
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah.
But anyway, we have to find out it for ourselves.
We're training ourselves in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to. I have most of the time the Spanish word and then the Dutch word, if I, to understand the Spanish, what it really means. But then I want to go back to the Spanish to have my new understanding about the words. But it's a language. It's not a language of Spanish. It's a language of LCG.
LGC. Exactly.
LGC.
Yes.
I do it also in English, but it's in German. Oh, that makes sense. Okay, then I know
Then
that.
go back.
But sometimes I need to do it. Like the meaning, I didn't know what it was. And then I was sense, the why. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think it's very good, Gabi, because we have to be very creative.
Yeah.
It costs us much more energy and effort and time to study or to understand this.
True.
And I think we are doing it on another level than the Spanish native speakers.
Yeah, it's a different role, I would definitely say. Yeah. It's a filter, because it's filtered. It's very filtered. This is what the only comment Alejandra has said about, and I've said it before, about us translating, is that she's making the best she can to describe the signal, and we are doing the best we can, me and David, to describe, to transfer it from one language to another to
Yeah.
make it as clear as possible. So we usually have a pretty good product there because there's like a double filter there.
Yeah,
So
true.
it's not, you know, but it is a lot. Like, and then you guys receive that and then process it again, and that's like, you know, so
Yeah.
it's good. It's a good process. So we're gonna go to Marjolaine's first question. I think it's also related to the nativo and the nacido, right? And then it says, I will be consuming the structure of my gravitational document of my native document. This is what we were saying about the nativo, the native. My native gravitational document, that's what I'm going to be consuming, because when I am born, there is a contract between my particularity and the entorno, right? And to be born, I need to have a document that I need to go through. And Earth needs to have like a document that is going to be executed. I'm going to be living and executing a document that was pre-programmed before I was born. Yeah, that is like the native document. The thing is that if there's a nacido, there's a despierto, awake, that aspect, that new quality allows us to receive variables from the entorno and allows us to update and recreate, right? So we may be altering our destiny because we are updating while we're alive.
Mm.
So next question from Gabby. The double is a code that can be controlled or can be a substitute to the solar native code. What is the intention to control the double to derivate experiences to the double? What we were saying earlier, right? Because the double, if we're talking about the molecular double, right? The molecular instance has to do or is related to our genetic code, right? Our genetic code is all the information, the documentation that the container has, that when we are born, we need that gravitational documentation. And that documentation is passed on by our ancestors through the genetics.
Yes.
And this is a middle ground, right? Molecule, like we have the anatomic and we have the molecular. So it is an instance that is highly manipulable by external influences because we weren't formed or educated consciously with space temporal consciousness, multidimensional consciousness in which we are being formed right now. Right now we have more or less consciousness about the fact that we have a molecular instance and that we have a molecular double, that it's related to our genetics, all of that, right? So it is less probable or not as manipulable as others that are completely encapsulated in the anatomic. If there's a person that is completely encapsulated in the anatomic, then most likely their doubles and their molecular instances are being touched. You know? So, Alejandra said that, right? The double is a code that can be controlled or can be a substitute to the solar native code. Of course, if we don't have a particular connection, or if we don't awaken this appetite or this resonance with the solar native code, then of course that double is going to be, because that is the instance where we put God too. It's a substitute. God is a substitute. It's a middleman. If we don't know what a molecular double is, then we're going to think it's a God. We don't realize it's just us in another dimension. And that is used to manipulate us, you know, to manipulate code.
Because you put it outside instead of internalize it.
So if the instruction is derivate your experiences to the double and you don't even know what the double is, or who manages the double, and you derivate all of your experiences to that, then you are going to be exposing yourself to someone else managing your experience inside the anatomic. So Ale was like, I'm not going to do that.
Denise,
Yeah.
you said the double is us in another dimension. What do you mean by this? Is this some people believe in other lives, or
Okay, this is a question that makes me feel funny because it should be clear by now. The double is an an instance of myself in another dimension. We have the double and we have the unfolded. It unfolds itself in the anatomic. The unfolded has different characteristics than the double. The double doesn't have an experience, doesn't have a time. It lies in another place, but we are connected to it, right? The thing is that since there was no definition in every level for us, we didn't have any awareness of the different scales, then that double, because it is not human, these external influences that have reaches in multiple dimensions that don't have any credit want to use our credit to express themselves. So they're like, oh, easy prey. You're an easy prey down there. You don't even know you're multidimensional. So if I insert whatever code inside the molecular scale, I insert whatever code in there, right? And you're gonna interpret that as a celestial visit, divine visit, angel, whatever. We're gonna be interpreting that however we want with our symbolic licenses, because we don't realize that we are multidimensional. We are anatomic, we are molecular, we are atomic, and we are subatomic. The thing is that we are not people outside the anatomic.
But there are more doubles. There's not only one double, eh?
Yeah, but I don't like, that's where I draw the line. I can't explain what an atomic double is. No, I can't. Alejandra has spoken about that, but I don't know how to explain that because I stopped myself there.
That's for me also difficult.
Yeah, that's where I draw the limit myself. I can talk about the molecular double because I can grasp the concept, but the others no. Yeah. So when we're talking about molecular double, right? Molecular double, that is the place that the thing that is active, that is connecting, that is like in connection with the unfolded. The unfolded is reading variables from the entorno. That is something that the double cannot do because it doesn't have a material existence down here. The unfolded has a more gravitational existence. It's more gravitational, it's more dense, and it's more restricted. Right? They have different scopes, they have different roles, they have different, but we need each other. The double and the unfolded need each other because the double without the unfolded, it cannot progress, it cannot evolve. It is perfect. In its own realm, it's perfect. But when it jumps into a gravitational existence, it realizes it's not perfect. That's why it can increment. It can create an increment. It can create an improvement. So when we go to sleep, that's what we do. The unfolded is over here, having the experience, being in contact with the entorno, being in contact with the variables. We go to sleep. And there's a connection with the double. The double takes these variables, reconfigures, and then sends it's in connection the next day in the morning. The double did something, right? So it's me, but in another dimension, but I'm not a human there. So I know. I know it's a very hard, like, tell your brain that there's another instance of yourself that is not a human, and that is in another instance, it's like, the brain is like, what? But of course, these things have to do with learning to process signals outside of the brain. It is a training that we are barely learning. We're all learning about that. But yeah, so is that a little bit clearer, Marjolaine?
Yeah, it's really funny because I asked many times about this double and never I I couldn't receive it or whatever. And I was
There
thinking,
was
oh
like
my God,
something.
a little panic as well. So I have to understand it. This is important.
Okay.
This is important.
Mm.
Yeah. When I was a child, I knew that there was a double of me. When I was very little, and I was always knew about my double. And when I fell asleep, I knew, okay, I'm going to my double. And now everything is falling apart, or not falling apart. It's just like a puzzle. It's coming together. And that's what if people are asking about the logic, I said I had so many questions when I was a child, and so many questions are now answering by the logic. And this is again, yeah, it's so funny that I understand this for the first time. And
Yeah, and something that's the thing with these concepts, that in the conceptual base, right? We begin with something, and then Alejandra talks about it, describes it, and the concept evolves, and it becomes more clear and more clear and more clear. But it is a long process. It is not something, that is why, yeah, if you need to ask it several times. But for me, it's funny because I'm like, I myself feel that we have talked about it a lot of times, but of course, like every receiver, of course, it's different. And yeah, we need to go over it and over it and over it and over it. Like for me, there are concepts that I'm just like, and I'm sure like if I asked Ali, she'd be like, what do you mean? Like I've talked about this for years. And I'd be like, oh my God, I know, but I don't get it.
no, and that's you received it in the Wernicke brain, but not yet in the Broca brain. And now I transfer this to the Broca brain. But as a child, I was living this. So it's really funny what culture can be do. I was thinking about it. It was really the culture is taking away all these concepts and containers and want to, to
Stereotype
use
everything.
what we talked about, these triggers, and about this this information about these guys and Hammer and whatever. Yeah, that it is afleiding. What is afleiding in het Engels? It's
Distraction.
distraction. Thank you.
Distraction. And there's a lot of that, yeah. And it and it has to do with resonance. Like if there's people that resonate with that, I mean, there's respect for that, because there are licenses running, and there are things happening simultaneously that we must respect, because we are not the container, of course, and we cannot replace whatever these currents and the people resonating with these currents are doing, because they're doing something. They're there for a reason, right? The fact that we are resonating with something different, it's an entirely different thing. Like Ale always says, it's my responsibility. My resonance is my responsibility, and that's why, like we were saying, it's a lonely road. It's a lonely road. We can only talk amongst each other, but that's about it.
Thank you, Denise. Thank
You're
you so
welcome.
much.
Thank you for your questions too. All these questions are very good. So
Very clear today. Very clear.
very clear, yeah. Okay, next question from Nienke. Oh, we talked about that one. Was it clear? Do you think it's
Yes.
answered, Nienke?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So the next one is learn to unlink the experimental chart from the processor. Can you explain that in your words? I think I recognize this and was wondering about the reaction of the body. So this makes sense to me. Okay, so the processor of signals, right? That is not the signal, and it's not the experience of the signal either. It is the processing of the signal. So, I think we have been educated, and we have a culture, and we are accustomed to having an experimental, a life based on experiences, emotions. Because why do we like experiences? Because of the way they make us feel, right? So what we are learning with LGC, and of course this concept of us being multidimensional, and learning about the structure and the logic of every scale and how it is different, this is something that activates other potentials. One of this is that we are receiving signals, right? We are receiving signals constantly because we're antennas and because the sun is a space of reception of signals from the expressed universe, and we inside here, we receive signals, right? Now, the problem here is that if we have an identity that is only, like we were saying earlier, that is encapsulated in the anatomic scale, right? And I am receiving signals, but I am processing those signals, and these signals, I am connecting them with my experience and my emotion and my feelings, then I am going to be blocking the signals because we are receiving all kinds of signals. We are receiving them from outside the box, from inside the box, from our ancestors, from our personal documentation, from our clans, from the species, from the cone, from the foundation. We're receiving all kinds of signals, right? Now, if these signals are processed and we immediately link them to an experience, we are blocking the signal. We are contaminating the signal. We are not processing the signal purely as the signal is. We are not like organizing the signal or allowing the signal to go where it needs to go. We are interfering. We're gonna, like, if we are doing that, if we are linking the signal to an experience, we are the interference of the signal. We are not allowing the signal to do what it needs to do. So that is a very hard thing to do. Like, I have trouble doing it. Not allowing, because it almost happens automatically, right? Like, something happens, I'm like, oh, it must be because of that. It must be. And I don't, like, it's so hard to just allow the signal to be mute and just be. Because our brain is like, oh, I need to know what's going on, because if not, I don't feel safe, I don't feel contained. And Ali explained this. She was like, okay, if I do that, if I associate the signal with an experience or an emotion or a feeling, I'm going to be containing myself, but the container, I'm not attending the needs of the container. Because it might be something that doesn't even have to do with me. My receiver, my body, is a global and collective entity, and I'm receiving signals, all kinds of signals all the time, and they don't necessarily have to do with me. If they have to do with me, I'll probably know. But if I can't find, an argument that reassures me objectively that it has to do with me, then it probably doesn't have to do with me. And all I have to do is allow the signal to go where it needs to go, and not force an assimilation, not force an understanding of it. That is like, but I mean, I think it was like 4 years ago probably that we realized we had a processor, and now we have to learn to unlink the experiences from the processor. I mean, we have a lot to learn. So hard. Is that better?
Yes, because I noticed for myself that sometimes when something in a situation, then I feel like, oh, my mind is really, and my thoughts are really calm, but my body is reacting. And then I was like, and then I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Why does my body do that way? But then I'm like, okay, just, but that's how I understand it now, that is also the way to, don't think about it, just let it
Because the
process.
signal will, of course, have a impact in our bodies,
Yes.
but it shouldn't have an impact in our minds.
Yes, that's what she was saying, and that is something I was really happy to hear, but something I don't really understand yet in my mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just reason it, and that's okay.
Yeah. And this has to do with the separation of body, mind, consciousness, right? My
Yeah.
body will of course be affected by the signals, but I cannot make my mind or construct my mind based on what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
It should be based on my my consciousness of things.
Yeah.
That's why the mind is the codification of the consciousness, right? So if I am constructing an argument or a dialectic based on what I feel, then I'm not receiving a signal, because what I'm feeling usually, like I'm talking about like emotion more than like a signal, right? If I base my arguments on what I'm feeling, then those feelings usually come from like from an ancestral charge documentation.
Yeah.
So I am validating these documents that I should actually be updating. Instead of validating them, what I should be doing is with my consciousness be like, is that actually true? Like, am I gonna let it run again, or am I gonna disable it or invalidate it? Because if I invalidate it, it's still there, but it's not gonna affect
Yeah.
me as much, and I'm not gonna be repeating the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that is now, in a way, possible. That's what used to not be possible, and now that kind of things are possible. Yeah.
It's becoming possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
There are some things that are becoming possible that before everything was just like a blur.
And that's becoming more clear. But yeah, thank you. That's why I really, yeah, it's really interesting.
Okay, good. Okay, next question from Gabby. Can you open up more about what Ale means with creating meaning, and how her close relationship did improve on that? I still notice I struggle with filling in that creating meaning. The creating of meaning, of course, from the anatomic instance where the unfolded and all, this is what we are doing. We are receiving these variables from the context, we are receiving from the instruction, and we are reasoning, and we are constructing concepts, right? The construction of concepts are basically are like really tied and linked to the creation of meaning. Creation of concepts, the creation of concepts is based on a meaning, right? Because they wouldn't make sense if that wasn't true, right? It makes sense. The concepts make sense. We are creating concepts, and we are reasoning with our consciousness because they make sense. There is a coherency, right? Tying one thing with another, creating a concept. So the meaning is prior to the concept. I'm creating a concept because it makes sense. So by reasoning and creating concepts, we can also add this other element, which is the meaning, which is there, but we just hadn't actually been vocal about it. Alejandra has just recently spoken it, right? But it has been happening all along. We have been working with the creation of meaning while creating concepts, while reasoning and being formed with this instruction. Now, this is what we do and can do from the anatomic when we go to sleep. These concepts, these meanings connect with the subatomic, which is the origin, right? The origin is like, okay, we have an unfolded in a specific entorno, right? There is a meaning going on. There is a construction of a new concept. Like, there are things going on down there. There is a flow there. There is a connection, right? So that is how synchronicity happens, when there is a connection, when there is a link between going back and forth. But it's something that is happening, and it has to do with the consciousness, right? The reasoning, the meaning, the making sense of things. And it also has to do with the resonance, of course. In Ri, it is a configuration of your particular Ri and your resonance. Because if not, it would just be like a belief system. Yeah.
True. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, next question from Marjolaine. But if I take signal as an argument and introduce improvements, you can only update as nacido. That's what we were talking about earlier. The nativo, the nacido. the fact that only the nacido aspect is the one that is able to be in contact with the variables of the context. And these variables, these signals that the unfolded is in contact with the nacido aspect, if it's able to take them, then there can be, like, there's a possibility of constructing an improvement. If there is no nacido, that aspect that receives variables, if it's not active, then I'm just gonna be existing and living or executing an experience with my native document, with no capacity to update it. So the only way that a nativo can update its document, it's by dying. Because it has no capacity, it doesn't have a nacido that is receiving these variables from the entorno to create updates and improvements. It can't do that. The nativo, like on its own, can't do that. So it needs to die. But if the nacido is active, it is slowly learning to do these updates and improvements, then it doesn't have to die, or at least not as quickly.
I understood every night we go through
Yeah.
this process, and before we had to die. Yeah.
Before we had to die. And Ale says that now going to sleep is equivalent to what before was to die. So it's like we die every night.
Go to our double, we never alone.
Yeah, we never allowed, no.
Yeah.
Okay, is that better, Marceline?
Yeah, wonderful. And also the answer of this creating meaning,
Mhm.
the end of this 1, 2 force he's talking about is really
Mhm.
beautiful. Thank you.
We're doing that. This is what we're doing. We're constructing meaning by reasoning. Okay, so next question from Gabby.
It's very clear. It's not the meaning of other people, in the row, but that it's, to receive it in the re.
Yes, we're receiving a signal, and the
Yeah.
description of that signal, the instruction that Ale provides for us, and us reasoning that and forming the coherency behind that concept.
Yes.
Of course, it's in re because it is a particular connection. So whatever the meanings that are there socially are provided by the container. They're like standardized meanings. And this was before, like, this is also something that Ale explained. Before, we could rely on the container to provide us with these meanings of life, right? Like past scriptures and like these celestial teachers or whatever that provided us with the meaning of life.
Yeah.
And it was enough, and we could live off of that. Or just if the meaning of my life was to be a mother, or if the meaning of my life was to be a doctor, or whatever, it was enough to live by that. But now that is like running out of credit, because it's like we have to be responsible for the creation of the meaning of our own life, like the arguments that are going to keep us alive and the purposes, like why do I want to continue living in this specific time? Because if I only want to have an experience, this is not the place for that. This is like a different kind of classroom for different kinds of particles that want different things, that have appetite for different things. If I'm a particle that has an appetite for an experience, and I just want it to be a good experience, then I just need to find a good tour bus, and that's it. But if I have an appetite for creating a particular evolution, then I'm gonna need a different classroom. And in this classroom, there are not as many supports or like training wheels. Like you are more on your own.
And this is totally new, Denise. And what I understood, it started in lab 18, that it was very
And
important.
she started to talk, yes, to like vocalize the creation of meaning.
And the 19 and the 20 and the 21 lab. And yeah, I understand it's very important, but very difficult because all the people live in these container belief systems. What you said about the culture, about spirituality, about God, whatever. Wow. Okay.
And the thing is that they are using a standardized meaning or
Yes.
belief systems because of their own appetites and the state of evolution of their souls. So it's fine. You know, it's like we need that too. Like we need content. The content, what it does is that it proves the quality of the codification of the container. The thing is that if we have awakened this resonance, then probably we have a specific attraction for learning things that have to do with the container. So we are contents too, but we are learning, we are being formed so that probably we will get editing licenses of the container. We are being trained and like there's going to be tests probably. Like they're not going to allow just anybody to edit, right? But if we have this resonance, we have that potential and we have that appetite too, because it's a potential that is available for everybody, but not everybody has that appetite. Ironic, because it's there for everybody. So it is not that we are special. No, we just have that appetite. Because the potential is for everybody. So, okay. Is that better?
Much better.
Okay. So, Gabby's next question. The internal fight Ale had for the space of the antenna, was that between the subject and the object or between the native and the foreign codes? No. No, 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 and no. Sorry. She was talking about when she was talking about her grandparents. Remember that, Gabby? She was going through metrics of her grandparents and like when they died and all of that. She's been talking a lot about how in the next apparatus we're gonna be all working a lot with our 4 grandparents. But for her, she's like something else. She started working with her grandparents in lab 14. So there was like a lot of things, a lot of synchronicities that she found. And that's where she made that comment that there was a internal fight for her space, for her space. Because that documentation, that codification wants to express itself. She says, I am the light of the end of the tunnel for them. But Ale was like, you guys, this is my reaccess. This is my life. I am the one gonna live my life. So you guys can fight for my space all you want. But there's an administration here. Like I am administrating my own reaccess. So you can't just come in whenever you want. Something like that. We're not talking about people, okay? We're talking about documents. We're talking about information and signals.
From
So
the clan.
Oh, sorry.
From the clan.
Oh, sorry.
From the
Sorry.
clan.
Yeah, okay. That was not clear to me indeed.
Is it clear now?
Yeah, it's clear. But I found out that I don't know anything about my father, and therefore I tried to find out, but I cannot find out. It's impossible still now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting.
There are tools that
My
that
heritage.com I could find, but there's nothing. Really nothing.
wow.
Because I'm in Holland and it's in Germany, yeah?
Yeah, maybe you're gonna have to go to a journey in Germany to find everything.
Yeah. I know now when my father died and when he was born that I found, but before no. And everybody died now, family and everything. But it's interesting.
It's gonna be a challenge to find then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is that clear?
Yeah,
That
it's
comment
clear.
that I said? Okay,
Yeah.
about the antenna. So next question from Nienke. We have to reach the subatomic scale, otherwise this explodes. Can you explain that in a way why we have to reach this? Do you remember the like more context what she was talking about that then?
Yeah, she has. How I understood it, that we have to be aware of the subatomic scale, so we can have also awareness on that scale, and that is something that we as humans have to achieve, because otherwise this whole project is not gonna work out. That's sort of how I understood it, but I'm not really sure if I understood it right. So that's I
It
think
has to do with if we are not connecting or interested in that subatomic scale consciousness and like forming it, what's going to happen is that these external codes that are not native to this space, they're going to continue to like make use of that vacancy that we are not using and configuring ourselves. And since they are external, they have no awareness of when it breaks or of the limits of it. So they insert and express until it breaks, until it bursts, and it has happened before. Or so Ale explains, right? The remains of the third orbital between the fourth and fifth orbitals of the solar system. So it has to do with that. Like if we don't take responsibility, whatever is within our reach to do, and just have that interest in forming a particular scale consciousness and just becoming acquainted with logics that are not human, right? Understanding the logic of how or why a solar system exists or what it's for, what sun is doing, all of those things, then there are going to be vacancies. And then, they're going to be like, oh, I can put myself in there. Like it's open, the door is open, so I might as well just come in. And since it's external, it's foreign, it breaks it. Because it doesn't.
But we are with a
doesn't
very few group. So can we do this for humanity?
Apparently, yes.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we've been doing it for a while. And Alejandra, the reach of Alejandra, and she has been working with the solar native code and working with Andromeda and all of that, and just seeing her doing that, and of course that's gonna take us, like the rest of us mortals, that's gonna take us more time probably to learn what Ale is actually doing. But I think it's a process, and I think it is all like the margin of error it's contemplated by Sol, and that we have another, this is also something Ale said, that we have another 12 years until this reaches society, because this is a science from another dimension, and and we have to use the science from this dimension for it to be massive. So the science from this dimension needs to evolve into a moment where they connect, but we're not there yet. We are just receiving the signals in anticipation, and there's a reason for that. We probably don't know why just yet, but and I'm not personally like in much of a rush to understand why or what my role is. I'm trying to keep it, be like, okay, I'm here, trying to learn, I don't know why I'm here that much. I don't know what I'm doing too much, but I'm sure in the future I will know. And that's enough for me. Like if the answer to those questions is in the future for me, I'm okay with that, and that kind of calms my biology. And that's a little bit how I relate with the resource. I'm like, okay, I don't get it now, but I'll probably get it later. Maybe I need to evolve. I need to learn. I need to improve. I need to, mature a lot more, space temporally, mature more to understand that or to answer that question. So I just leave it open. And if my biology needs to be calmed down, I'm like, okay, it's in there. It's there. The question, like the answer to that question is there. It's in the future. And that calms me
Yeah,
down.
that's interesting what you say. It is good to know. To put it there.
right? Just be like, yeah, it's there. I just need to get there, and it's gonna take time. Because in my digital aspect, that is like the problem, a lot of the problems we have here in the anatomic is that we never cease to be imaginary and subatomic particle where there's no time and everything is in the present. So here in the anatomic, there's a delay, there's a process, there's an open time, there's past, present, future. So our aspect of us that is always in the present, right? That there's no time there, gets, "Ugh, I want it now," like the children. No, I want it now, I want it now. Because they're not acquainted with linear time. They've just come from a place where there's no time, so they want it now, you know? And even though we grow up to become adults, we still do that. We want everything now. So it is also maturing in space temporal kind of maturity, be like, okay, my digital aspect wants everything now, but my anatomic doesn't need everything now. Actually, my anatomic needs delay, it needs processes, it needs time so that it can exist. Because if my analogic had everything now, it wouldn't be analogic. It wouldn't even exist. Because the nature of the analogic, of the anatomic, is delayed time, separation. So we need that to exist here in this level of densification. So it's like, okay, if I argument all of these things and be like, I don't need to know it now. If I don't know it now, then I don't need to know it now. It will come. And what I do know now, capitalize that and use that, because that's enough for now. And that calms down a lot our bodies.
I don't have that question that often.
No?
I don't have that I need to know why I'm doing this, etc. No, I just know I want to do this.
Yeah. Me too. I don't have it that often either.
It's not, I don't have it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
only thing, I want to
Yeah.
understand everything directly what Ale is saying, but sometimes it's a big frustration because I want to learn more. I want to spend more time. But this is not always possible. So it's always consciousness, it takes time. David always says, it takes time to that it's going into the body. And you have to respect that. And it's like a little child, it's I want to go more quick, but it's a process.
Yeah, and we're all immature, and we'll just have to be aware of our immaturity. And we need immaturity, because if we didn't have it, then we wouldn't have anything to mature. So it's good. It is the source of immaturity is the source of maturity. So yeah, okay, I'm immature in that way. Yes, we all are. Nobody is space temporally mature. Who is? Nobody is. And that's okay. We are imperfect little humans. And this is something that Ale said, I think, in 124, that faults and defects are the matrix itself of evolution. When I heard that, I was like, that clicked for me. That clicked. I was like, oh my God. Defects and flaws are the matrix of evolution itself. Yes, of course, we need, because we wouldn't have anything to improve if we didn't have that. We wouldn't have any place to evolve from. And after so many years, this is like the example we were saying earlier, so many years of hearing Ale say the importance of the defects and flaws and faults, and I still didn't get it until 124.
Oh, really?
It clicked for me.
Thanks.
So it's like, okay, I'm imperfect. Yes. I'm immature. Yes. Yes, I need to be. And that's okay. So I can tell my double that I am imperfect, and I'm okay with that. You can be perfect. The double can be perfect. Okay, you be perfect. I don't have to be, and I don't want to be. Because if I want to be perfect, then that means I want to go back to the primary unfoldment where there is no evolutionary requirement, and I don't want to go back there. I want evolution and I want challenge. So I'll stay here with my flaws. That's okay. Okay, so next question from Marlene. Lab 21, recodification of the strict base 21. Why is 31st of October so important? Okay, that one is a difficult one. It was difficult for me too.
He's
So
talking about lab 21 in the beginning of this reading, also at the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she's talking, of course, of lab 21 in relation to the -1 line in the periodic table, right? So we have lab 19, 20, 21, and 22. So base 21 and base 12, this is also something that for me it has been a challenge, like a challenging concept to grasp. But this is what I have understood so far, okay? 12 has to do with orbitals 1 and 2. 0, 1, 2, 3, right? We are in the third orbital, and everything that we experience and that we receive and perceive has to do and is related to, and it is customed fit to the third orbital, right? Because we are natives to the third orbital. Things like what? Things like the calendar, things like the apparatus, structural things I'm talking about, okay? So 12 is 1, 2, sun, 1, 2, 3. The reception of the signal, the function, and then 3. Okay, that is a little bit of how I grasp it. 21 is from 3 to sol, from 3 to 0, right? So we have base 30, 3, 0, third orbital, and sol. It is the perception of the solar code or the solar consciousness, 3, 0. And this is something that helped me a little bit understand it more, the base 30. Why did Alejandra do event 60 bar 1 in Greece 30? Because that is the cradle of mysticism. Right? In that era, we needed content creators because we didn't have any content. That was fine. So there was a license to create that sort of content, right? And that the base 30 back then, the connection between the third orbital and the sun was mystical, was symbolic, and there was credit for that. The thing is that in apparatus 500 and forward, Alejandra was like, okay, we need a new system. 60, event 60 in 30. An updated system. An updated system of that 30 base 30, of that connection between the third orbital and the sun. Now, going back to 1221. 12 is what comes, 21 is what goes back. It's like the coming and going from the sun to the third orbital. Coming and going, what's in the middle there? So 1 has to do with the reception, 2 has to do with the functions, 3 has to do with the actions, right? And then from 3 and on, from 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 orbitals, they have a specific role too, right? But our reach is the third orbital. That's it. Like whatever goes on to the next orbitals, that's not our business. It's the orbitals need to do whatever they need to do with this, with whatever the sun issues, right? But for us, what concerns us, base 12, base 21, base 30. That's as much as I can say. Because for me, it is difficult. It's a difficult one. Did it clarify
Thank you.
just a little bit?
Yeah, clarified more, yes.
Okay, good. We'll continue working with those concepts. We'll continue. Okay, so why is the 31st of October so important? Okay, so in regular years, we have the first 4 days of lab 20. I think it was
1st November.
But I'm
First-
trying to think about, I think it was in 2022 where Alejandra began with this, with the saints, dead, living, and awake, because the 1st of November is usually the day of the saints, and then the 2nd of November, the day of the dead. But then she added the day of the living, the 3rd of November, and the day of the awake, the 4th of November, right? So that's the configuration. In regular years, those are the first 4 days of Lab 20. But on a leap year, the first day of Lab 20 is October 31st. And we know that a leap year is an update year where we have 366 days, right? The thing is that the update in relation to the Gregorian calendar, the extra day is inserted in Lab 4, the 29th of February, right? So Ale always says that the people born in the first 49 days of the year, they update in Lab 20 because Lab 20 has -59. Okay, so they begin their updates then in Lab 20. That's why this begins in October 31st, which is -59 on a leap year. So this was hard. This was also tricky for me to understand. I was like, what? Like update on for people like the leap year, the structure of the leap year always throws me off because, for example, natively I was born on the 9th day of Lab 18, right? But on a leap year, Alejandra said that it moves like I move one, right? The 8th of October moves to the 10th day of Lab 18. So I was like, what do you mean? Like, why do you move my space? This was a whole conflict for me in my head. Why do you move my native, situation where I'm comfortable? And there's a movement there, but of course that's needed. That's why like these just kind of
Yeah.
shifts in the leap year, they allow the update. Because if it always fixed, there couldn't be a possibility for the update,
I had it too on my birthday. I was like, no, it's the wrong day.
That's not my birthday. What do you mean? Like
My mind was like, oh.
right. But
Yeah.
that is the opening for the update, for the change. Mhm. It was hard. So it happened for me in my native lab, and it also happened for me when she explained that the natives of the first 59 days of the year. So yeah. So it begins on the 31st of October and it happens in Lab 20. So that is like the explanation of what she said. Next question from Marjolaine. We are using space temporal logic. We are marking as solar consciousness as pure solar consciousness, the routing that our experiences will have at an atomic scale inside the container. Yeah, so everything we're doing in LGC has to do with that. We are learning about a space temporal logic, about a multi-dimensional logic. And this is so that we are able to not only understand ourselves as humans, as the content of the container, but also it's not that we are not humans anymore. We add another quality. So by learning this other logic, we are becoming acquainted with the logic of the solar consciousness, right? As the space, the collective of particles that everything that exists in the solar context makes up, right? So the thing is that what we are doing, whatever we are doing, the creation of concepts, the reasoning, and the creation of meaning, which is what we do anatomically, because in other scales we do other things, right? But that's what we do anatomically. We are routing our experiences. We are, you know how Ale always says that we are making an impact in the antimatter? The antimatter is where it is like the kitchen of the code that's later going to become matter. So if we're making an impact in the antimatter, we are being a part of the codification that later will become an experience. So we are going to be experiencing an experience that we have helped codify and create. Does that make sense?
It's still landing. Yeah.
So we are becoming a part of the actually the creation
Yeah.
of
That's
what we're later going to experience. But it's not like you know, what they say socially, like, oh, you manifest your own experience and all that. No, that is like talking to the Matrix and being like, oh, can you give me a better experience, please? Like, I don't like my experience. Can you just give me a better one? No, we're talking about reception of signals, codifying of signals, description of signals, reasoning them, creating concepts, going through a whole process of disidentification, understanding, processing, you know, so many things that we've been doing for years. And still, I wouldn't dare to say that I'm creating my reality. I wouldn't dare to say something like that. What I would say is like, okay, I am becoming more aware of my own existence. I am becoming more aware of the stuff that allows my existence, which is the container. I am becoming more aware of the solar consciousness. And by that, I am including the entorno in my life, and the entorno is including me, right? And I am learning to have a better connection and all of that. So while I'm doing that, the entorno is synchronizing. So my life turns out and becomes more synchronized. But it is only because I am including in my own experience and in my own codification, I am including the variables of the entorno and the limits of the entorno, right? I am prioritizing them. It is not like I'm just here living my best life and wanting to travel the world in a boat and be happy, because the purpose of life is to be happy. No, I am interested in other stuff. So I include the entorno in my life, and it takes a big chunk of my life, and that's fine with me. I don't mind. You know, but we're learning, that's what we're being formed to do. To just be part of the creators of the code. Help the sun codify, because sun is young and it needs help. And we might, like, it is like sun is training us to help him, to be its assistants in a way.
This makes clear, Denise. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Next question from Gabby. What does Ale mean with the describe first where you are in a situation? Can you help me with the context of that one? Your mic is muted.
It was more in the end that she says, describe, 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 describe.
Mm-hmm.
Can you remember?
At the end. Okay.
Describe.
Because a lot of times she said it, describe first, describe first.
Describe and not make interpretation. Something
Yeah.
like that.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that was maybe that, because then there is
Describe
also
first.
another.
Okay, so it's not the same to describe than to interpret. Because, for example, I can be looking at the rain and I can describe the rain, be like, okay, the rain is wet. The rain has a wind with it, or it's brought by the wind. The rain comes from the clouds. I'm describing the rain. But if
Mhm.
I am interpreting the rain, I'm gonna be, oh, the rain is beautiful. The rain,
Ah, yeah,
you know, is it reminds
yeah.
me of my youth and it's different to
Mm.
interpret than to describe.
Ah,
I think that's what she was saying, right?
yeah.
So
I
it
didn't.
is important to describe first,
Yeah.
because to describe something is to be objective about it and technical about it.
Ah, yeah.
To make an interpretation, we have more of a symbolic license. But
Mm.
also, not us though, because we are becoming more and more technical. So of course our interpretations become more technical too. But yeah, is that better?
Yes, clear.
So from Nienke, to have a prepared space for the other person's argument in my private zone. Can you explain this? My past charge occupying my presence to express itself. My past charge. Okay, the first part.
Yeah,
It's
that
about
were
me and
two
Rose.
sentences she said. They are not directly connected, Jim.
Oh, okay. So the first part, having a prepared space for the other person's argument. I think she was talking about like how we relate to the people that are really close to us.
Close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the people that we just interact with like socially.
Yeah, socially, yeah. It was
Specific.
about the close ones. Yeah.
The close ones, the thing is that with the close ones, we don't have that space. It is like constant. So they're gonna see us in a raw existence, and we
Yeah.
don't have like we don't have that time or space to prepare ourselves all the time and be sweet and be sensitive and empathetic all the time, because it is impossible to be like that all the time, right? But when I think what your question is when she was saying about when we are socially interacting. When we are socially interacting, we are actively preparing a space for the other
Yeah.
person, like for the other person, because well, if you are not a sociopath, you want to communicate and you want to be empathetic and you want to have an interaction, right? So you are issuing and you are preparing a space for the other person too, right? But the
Yeah.
thing is that what Alice is helping us be formed in is to understand that the other person is another person, and just allowing the person to be, allowing the person like understand the licenses that the other person is using, and the place where the other person is, or at least try to understand it, and not the part of cloning, right? Trying to clone myself, or trying to impose my opinions, or trying to impose the things that I understand. Um, that kind of thing. So if I'm just preparing a separate space to receive the other, just receive the other and not try to contaminate the other with me, with myself. You know, there
Yeah.
like the membrane, creating a membrane of separation between myself and the other, and just allowing the other person to be. And this is very hard to do too. This is very hard because we come from everything being so mixed up, like us not being able to differentiate any kind of membrane, even confusing ourselves with each other. Um, so learning this and then actually doing it, it is, for me, it's really hard still. Like I thought that I was getting very good at that, and then I find myself in a situation and I'm like, oh my God, I have a lot of work.
Then someone's like, what was I saying before about this?
I thought I was better at that. I'm not. Yeah.
It's clear. Thank you. Yeah.
And the next part, it says, my past charge occupying my presence to express itself.
Yeah, there was a sentence she said, and I think that was also about the reactives a lot of people had. That that was in how I understand. Like, okay, yeah, when you have like a lot, when you don't work with a lot of the concepts we're working with, then it works like, okay, that
Oh, it's
you
like
work.
automatic,
Yeah.
right? It takes your place.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes your space because it's vacant,
Yeah.
right? Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So if I'm not occupying my re, then it's vacant because I am word in raw. I'm elsewhere, or in the z-axis everywhere except in my re, so it's going to be vacant. So whatever, like I'm going to be dragged around because I'm not anchoring, I am not driving my re, right? So it may be that, okay, it's vacant, my past is just gonna react. They're gonna be stuff, there's gonna be outside stuff happening, and it's gonna click on my buttons and I'm gonna react. And that's all, because we if we integrate these concepts, we're gonna be able to identify these things out there. Like when I can think of several people that just live that way, that they just live being reacted. They're not like there's no consciousness there. It's just something else, like from the context, clicking their buttons, or something external clicking their buttons and then reacting to it. And that's it. That's the whole person. Just a button of reactions. A button board of reactions. Yeah. Either that or a person that is acting a stereotype too, or a person that is guided by their ancestors and keeps validating that stuff, or there can be many different things. But I think it's basically about having an empty, like a vacant re-axis, and the re-axis is like the source of the credit. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, next one from Marceline. We are using, okay, we talked about that one. Lab 22, equalizing the context. The context plural, 11 plus 11, 22. Otherwise we explode. That the sun is not qualifying for the civilized express universe.
I think this is the same question as Nienke had
Yeah.
about exploding.
Oh, so we already answered it, right?
Yes.
The only variable here is that 22.
Equalizing, I'm not getting it yet. Maybe you can.
Equalizing, I think it's related to the first 11 laps that have to do with us, and then the second 11 laps that have to do with others, because we are sharing a space, right? So inside this existence, there's going to be variables we're going to be updating. We're all going to be updating from the first to the 11th lap, right? The second 11 laps have to do with how the others received, how the others function, how the others act, how the others have their designs or their models, how the others administrate themselves, how the others memorize, how the others, all of that stuff. So we're talking about how that particularity fits into the collective, and if there's enough synchronicity there, because we all need to be synchronized by the entorno, because that's something that the entorno does. Okay, we don't do that. These are functions of the entorno. So it is like reading every content as a unit and then as a whole, and then equalize it. Try to balance the equation out, because of course there's a lot of differences between every particularity. There's a lot of differences, so there needs to be an equalization of all of those differences, so that there can be a synchronized experience. Because right now what we are living and what we have been living is a lack of synchronization. We're just bumping into each other. We're fighting each other. We are fighting ourselves. We're fighting each other. We hate ourselves. I think in the 2000s my generation in the 2000s and growing up, there was this argument about I hate myself, I hate myself, I hate myself. A lot of it. So we're hating ourselves, we're hating each other, we're killing each other, we're fighting each other. That means that there is no equalization. But this is what sun has been doing for a long, long time, right? And that's like that computerized tomography of every single content unit of content inside the container. Sun has us mapped out by now. So it is about that. It is about trying to balance the equation in relation to the updates and all the differences and the variables, because there's always going to be a lot of differences there. And the next one, we talked about it. It says derivate your experiences to the double, right?
Yes.
We talked about that one. Okay. So, last question from Gabby. Can you open up what she means that your body can experience, but not your mind? And that
Now
is an
you, that is
oh,
the same. Yeah.
we talked about that one.
Same as
Yeah.
Mika.
It can affect our bodies, of course.
Yeah.
Our bodies are connected directly to the entorno, but our minds, they don't have to be affected necessarily. So just allowing each thing to be differentiated from each other. The consciousness, the mind, the body, and the context. That's the reason. That's the whole reason why we have the quadrants. But they do work together, right? Okay, so next question from Nienke. Organize the genetic area. Ade had a huge fight in the Ria. Oh, we talked about that one.
Yeah.
Right? Was that clear?
It's not the same
We had
questions,
similar
Nienke.
questions. Yeah. Okay, next question. Saints and be awake are not in the life cycle. So when she talks about saint, she's talking about contact. Oh, here's a clue. We can relate saint, dead, living and awake to ram, rem, rom, room.
Yeah.
Ram is in the same space as the saint, and Ram is related to Ra, right? To the online, to the solar consciousness. Santo has to do with connection to the solar consciousness. Yeah. And that's outside the life cycle.
Yeah.
Then we have Rem Rom, which have to do with the content, the living and the dead. The dead is a documentation. The living is a document that is still running. And then the awake is an instance, and this is a question that I have because it sounds to me very similar to the nacido. The explanation that Ale made with the despierto sounded a little similar to nacido because the despierto is the one that is in contact with the entorno.
And that is the rumbo.
The
Or-
rumbo, exactly, the rumbo. So ram and rum, those things have to do with the container, and ram rem have to do ram rom, sorry, rem rom have to do with the content, which is living and dead.
Mhm.
And so santo, connection with the solar consciousness, awake, connection with the entorno. But we have all of those things, like they work together. Ram, rem, rom, rum, they all work together. They are part of the soma. They work together. And if they don't work, the body dies. So the thing is that these things have always been there. We're just vocalizing,
Naming. Yeah.
naming them, taking them out of the mute zone. So that is as far as I can go there because that's a question I have too. So we'll see what else she talks about later.
If you have answered that question, can you put it in the chat then, if you know it?
Yeah, yeah, of course. Just remind me because we have a lot of open questions. You have to remind me, oh, have you heard anything new about that? And just ask me because we can continue to talk about the concept because a lot of them just remain like we have to put an in construction
Yeah.
sign on them.
Yeah.
Under construction. Yeah. Okay, so last question from Nienke. Describe yourself in situations you feel locked. Maybe it's yourself from another dimension containing yourself. There, I become aware of the codification that it's occupying my line of credit. Okay. I think there she was talking about maybe there's a situation that I can't shake or that I can't understand, right? And that is where she said, it may be that you are containing yourself from another dimension. That block or lock is there for a reason, like what we were saying earlier. Maybe right now I don't understand. Maybe the answer is in the future. And maybe the resolution will be in the future. But remember, she talked about resolution. Like if we have a resolution, then we need another open conflict, because if not, we die. You know how people, when they are dying, they're the happiest because everything in their life is having resolution, they're dying.
Mm.
But maintaining an existence means maintaining an open challenge. So if we see conflict or a problem from the solar perspective, it means an opening to exist, because it's not something that is resolved. It's open. It's a challenge. It's a question, an open question, right? So maybe something maybe I interpret it as a blockage or as a lock. It may be there for a reason. Maybe just because if from this dimension it may seem like that, but from another dimension it's different, right? So this is something that she said, that we are learning to coexist with things that seem opposite from here. They seem opposite, but they are actually complementary. So that is like another shift in our perception, to be like, okay, they seem opposite, but they're not really opposite. So
Yeah.
allowing them to coexist.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
also connected this to the describe part, but that is what you mean, that you can maybe describe this kind of situations, so then you can also find this out yourself by
Exactly.
describing it. Yeah.
Work on the argument, right? Instead
Yeah,
of
exactly.
trying to shake it off, just try to describe.
Yeah.
And
Instead of just, I'm just locked. I'm just, I cannot do anything about it. I'm just here. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Try to
Okay.
describe
Thank
it.
you.
And it may be something like really heavy, like a really heavy document, or
Yeah.
something that has been locked for a long time, and it
Yeah.
needs
Yeah.
a lot of describing, a lot. So
Yeah.
that's why maybe with time we finish the description.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, have you ever decrypted a file, like a really heavy file that you receive that is encrypted, and you click the uncrypt and it takes a while?
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
Something like that. Something like that. So we're probably describing something that is going to take a long while to finish describing.
Yeah.
But then by that, we need to have another thing to describe, another argument for existing.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Thank you.
you're welcome. Next question from Marlene. It is for the creation of an instance that can be experienced. That is something that is connected to what we're saying earlier about us making an impact in the antimatter. Remember that?
Yes.
So that is a question related to that. If we are, there's a potential for us to work on the code or help Sun codify signals, then we're going to be making an impact in the kitchen where the code is being created, and that is going to have an impact in our experience. Talking about the synchronization and the reading of Sol, of its contents, and all of that. I think we talked about it, right? Next question, what is cosmic entertainment? Cosmic entertainment is what we have been living. The cosmos has been entertaining itself with us, because Sun as a star has been going through the expressed universe where where it's not civilized. There are no like regulations, or more structured, more civilized, more advanced, evolved consciousness. That's the cosmos. And Ale says like the cosmos is the most invasive thing there is. The thing is that if the solar code is at a subatomic level is weak because it's a young star, it's learning, then the cosmos is going to be like, ooh, let's go to the amusement park because we can go in and do whatever we want in there. that would be, like external influence or external codification to the solar native code. That's what it is. Instead, the galactic, because Ale says that we are beginning, or not we, I don't want to overestimate myself. The sun is beginning or having an attempt to begin its galactic era. Galactic is more in relation to civilized, where cosmic is more in relation to just expressed.
Yes.
So it's one thing to just wanting an expression to be having a densified expression, because in the universe, that is what's lacking the most, right? The universe is 99.9% dark matter, and there's very little dense matter, right? So dense matter is the most valuable. Remember, we talked about that, about gold, minerals, why gold is so coveted, because it's very valuable, because it's very dense. And dense matter is the most valuable in the universe, right? So I hope we're not the cosmos playground anymore. I hope not. But you know, the challenge is great, because we have to, at least us, we have the responsibility to define ourselves at a particular level, at a subatomic level, and that's like really difficult, because we are very used to an atomic logic. So this thing with dissociating the experience from the processor, that is like one of the main things to be able to process a logic from another dimension. Because we may be, if we are receiving signals from another dimension and we are trying to understand them with an anatomical logic, processing them with another, you know, it's not gonna work. We're not defining ourselves particularly there, because in order to define ourselves particularly, we have to disaggregate our human identity. That's so hard to do, because we love to be human. It's like it's like I have to leave Denise somewhere else and just, you know, that's really hard. And just be a subatomic particle. That's hard to do. And that's good. I think we like to be humans. We like our human experience, our human project. And it's pretty cool. I think the human project has amazing potential. It's really, really cool. Like, if the things that Alice say, that, you know, the new humans are gonna be born, how the new humans are gonna be born, that's really exciting. Like, I hope it's true.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about having one myself to see. I don't know, I want to have it, but then I'm like, then how am I gonna work? I have so much work to do. I don't know. I need a full-time nanny for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
How did-
going very easy, Denise. You know, the first year you have them always here to get at your body. So I had it with my children. So I was working and I had my child here. And
Oh,
after
you guys.
yeah, 1 year, you know, try
You know,
and
but
then
I have my dog, Katrina, she's 10 years old. She always wants to be with me. Like, she wants to be with me all the time. I can't. Like, I don't, it's so hard. How am I gonna, you know, if my kid always, I have to keep my kid with me all the time. I don't know how you guys like.
easy, you know, for the first year, your body is very strong and you keep it here or here on your back and you don't notice. It's like, you know, the nature,
Yeah.
native people, it's
The
normal.
maternal instinct comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
And
scared.
always when you're very busy, they fall asleep. So yeah. If there's something important, they fall asleep. It's always, you know, they resonate with you and they helping you. And yeah, if you're really in your read, then you were doing it perfect, Denise.
But yeah, so yeah, I think little humans must be really cool.
It
The new
is.
ones, they should be cooler than us, hopefully.
And even a big one. Are 21 and 19, it's amazing. It's amazing to talk about life and to talk about their life and about general things. I love it.
Mhm.
Every day there was a new adventure, you know, they were never the same. So I liked it very much, and still every moment was so special. I think this is for me, it's the most beautiful thing as a human being, for me personal, that I could go through it. It was not easy, but
Mhm.
I enjoyed it every moment, even when it was not easy.
Well, we'll see how it goes.
Nienke, she has the 4. She has 4.
Yeah.
So we have one last question from Marjolaine.
About
The
the figures.
obturation frequency, life cycle that will be encapsulated, and there's an obturation. Okay, so obturation frequency, she calls it 223, right? She calls that the obturation frequency. How I understand obturation frequency is a very
332, 332, I'm correct?
no,
332.
I think
Two,
it's
two,
223.
three.
Did I say it
Oh,
wrong?
yeah. Okay. No, no, no.
Maybe I
Then
said it wrong
I
in the
did.
recording.
No, 223. I
223,
think.
right? Okay.
So much.
It's similar to when she explained, remember in the red program where she explained and opened up a lot about the number 6, the relation of 8 with 6. Okay, so in the subatomic instance, we only have particles. That's all we have. We have in the instant. We don't have time. We don't have memory. We don't have document. We don't have anything. We just have the present, and we have occurrences, possibilities of existence. And we can take one and let it go, and take another one and let it go, and there's no process. There's no residue, right? Now, the obturation frequency, in this case, in relation to Earth, because it's 223, has to do with a kind of lock, because there is a choice, there is an occurrence, and there is a choice to develop that occurrence inside a life cycle. In order to do that, the occurrence field needs to be obturated, needs to be blocked, so that we can develop that one occurrence inside a life cycle. So we need to block all the other ones. It's like concentrating. When I'm concentrating, I have to obturate all the other stuff that's going on around me. Something like that.
Okay. Yes. Now I understand it.
Yeah? Okay. Something like that. That is also something that I am working on to understand. But it has to do with the obturation of other occurrences so that I can develop one inside a life cycle. I block the other ones. So I focus on one. That is like also, if we fractalize it, we can talk about the conflict of people with commitment. Why people can't commit to each other. Why it's so hard. Why? Because there's so many options. What if I meet someone else that's better? So I can't commit to one. That's why a lot of people are afraid of marriage,
Okay. Yeah.
because there's so many fish in the sea, so I can meet someone better. We can fractalize that conflict in that way. So, yeah, that is all of our questions today. We're right on time.
In time. Great.
And Denise, you give on Wednesday also a meeting?
Yes, for I think it's Jeff and Molly only. Yeah, because
Is
they
it
couldn't
okay
make it to this one.
if I come in later that
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
you can come, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
And I try to make my appointment earlier, like last time.
Okay, yeah, and if you have other questions or notes, bring them too.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they start 1 hour earlier.
Uh-huh. Yes, because I scheduled it
Yeah.
that way because I wasn't aware of the time change.
Yeah.
But we can ask them if we can move it to 7:30 Netherlands, because I always try to keep it 7:30 Netherlands. It doesn't matter if the time zone changes. I always keep it 7:30 Netherlands. For some reason. For some reason.
Yeah. Thank
Is
you.
that
Denise.
it will be wonderful because then I'm trying really to be there.
So yeah, we can ask. I'm sure they'll be fine with that.
And
So
thank you for having 2 meetings. That was really
oh
good.
yeah, because I think it's not nice, to just leave somebody out of it.
Yeah.
Mhm. So yeah. So 7:30 Netherlands would be
2:30.
2:30 New York?
Yeah, 1 hour later. Yeah.
No, because it's 12:30. No, 1:30 New York.
1:30. Yeah. Sorry.
1:30 New York. So I'm gonna ask them if they can make it 1:30 New York, 12:30 my time, because I don't move. In Costa Rica, the time zone doesn't change. When I was in
Doesn't
Juarez, I moved with the
Oh,
Netherlands. Yeah.
no, that's why I was like, huh, what is this? You also always move, So I was really
Yeah,
confused. But now, oh, yeah.
yeah. But it's fine with me. Like usually when I
So,
schedule the meetings, fine. I just I plan my whole day around it, so it's okay.
thank
Like
you.
so yeah, I'll ask them and we'll see each other in the next meeting. Thank you so much for being
Very much.
here. This was great. This was really good. So I think we're progressing in our concept creation, right? In our reasoning and understanding. I think we're doing
every
well.
meeting is a big
Yes.
step.
Thank
The ladies and the
Have a nice evening, you guys. I'll see you soon.
Yes, have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank
you very much.
Bye-bye.